The internet has always been a strange place, a space where the unreal often feels more real than the world outside your window. And within its endless maze of forums, anonymous boards, and comment sections, some alleys are better left unexplored. But curiosity has always been humanity's greatest weakness. It began with a user known only by his Reddit handle, No Sleep Watcher. The name itself wasn't unusual. Thousands of accounts carried titles like that, cryptic usernames blending sleepless nights and ghostly themes. But what set this one apart wasn't the name, it was the threads he created. They weren't long. They weren't detailed, just single posts, scattered across various horror subreddits. Each thread carried a title that seemed ordinary at first glance. Don't answer the knocking after midnight. Never stare too long into static. If you see the same stranger twice in a day, run. Rules, warnings, small fragments of advice that sounded like pieces of some unwritten survival manual. At first, people treated them as jokes, a weird, role-playing attempt to add creepiness to late-night browsing. The posts gathered a handful of upvotes, some sarcastic comments, and then faded into obscurity. But then, someone replied. It was on his post titled, "If your name is whispered from your speakers, unplug everything immediately." The comment came from a now-deleted account, just a single word, too late. When users clicked to view the profile, it was gone. Erased. As if it had never existed. Some brushed it off as a troll deleting their account. But then, 2 nights later, another thread appeared. This one was different. She's outside your door right now. No explanation. No context. Just a timestamp, posted at 3:17 a.m. The comment section exploded. People jokingly checked their doors, uploaded blurry photos of their hallways, and laughed at the idea of some faceless woman lingering outside, until a user from Ohio uploaded a shaky, grainy phone video. The caption read, "This isn't funny anymore." The video showed the inside of a small apartment. Lights off, curtains drawn. The camera moved slowly toward the front door, where a faint shadow shifted beneath the thin line of light spilling from the hallway outside. And then, 3 soft knocks. The comments turned into chaos. Half the viewers screamed troll. The other half begged the uploader not to open the door. But as people refreshed the thread, something strange happened. The username of the uploader began to change. Not disappear. Not delete. Change, letter by letter, as if someone, or something, was rewriting it in real time. Until it matched perfectly with the original poster. No Sleep Watcher. And then, silence. The video froze. The account vanished. Redditors assumed it was some elaborate ARG, a viral game designed to scare people. But deep down, a handful of users felt something colder slithering beneath the surface. Something that didn't want to entertain, but to lure. Because over the next week, more threads appeared. And with each new warning, another commenter would vanish. Their usernames corrupted, absorbed, erased from existence. Patterns emerged. The posts grew darker, more specific. If the reflection blinks before you do, leave the house immediately. Never trust a phone call that uses your dead relative's voice. If you wake up at 3:17, don't move. Don't breathe. Just listen. And always, always, at least one person would reply. And always, by the next morning, their account would be gone. But this isn't just a story about creepy internet legends. This is about what happened to one particular user. Someone who stumbled across these threads at the wrong time. Someone who should never have replied. Her Reddit handle was Ashlyn92. She wasn't looking for horror. She wasn't into ghost stories or creepy ARGs. She was just another night owl, scrolling absent-mindedly through subreddits in the small hours of the morning, the glow of her laptop screen keeping her company. It was past 2 a.m. when she found the post. The title was simple, "Don't look behind you when you feel the draft." She felt it before she even finished reading the sentence. That cold whisper of air brushing the back of her neck. At first, she laughed. Coincidence. Just one of those strange alignments that happen when you're sleep-deprived and alone in the dark. She scrolled through the comments, most of them mocking the post. But her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Finally, she typed 3 words. A joke. A dismissal. Too late, LOL. She hit enter. And that was the moment everything changed. The comments below hers began to glitch. Not instantly. Slowly. As if each word was being rewritten by invisible hands. Her screen flickered, the lights dimmed, and then, she heard it, a sound she would never forget. The faint, deliberate creak of a floorboard, directly behind her. She froze, her chest tight, her pulse hammering in her ears. The draft brushed past her again, colder this time. and though every nerve in her body screamed not to do it, she turned. For just a moment, she saw her own reflection in the dark window across the room. And it blinked, not with her, before her. The laptop screen refreshed by itself, and the username beside the original post began to change, letter by letter, until it read, Ashlyn92. The internet has always been a strange place, a space where the unreal often feels more real than the world outside your window. And within its endless maze of forums, anonymous boards, and comment sections, some alleys are better left unexplored. But curiosity has always been humanity's greatest weakness. It began with a user known only by his Reddit handle, No Sleep Watcher. The name itself wasn't unusual. Thousands of accounts carried titles like that, cryptic usernames blending sleepless nights and ghostly themes. But what set this one apart wasn't the name, it was the threads he created. They weren't long. They weren't detailed, just single posts, scattered across various horror subreddits. Each thread carried a title that seemed ordinary at first glance. Don't answer the knocking after midnight. Never stare too long into static. If you see the same stranger twice in a day, run. Rules, warnings, small fragments of advice that sounded like pieces of some unwritten survival manual. At first, people treated them as jokes, a weird, role-playing attempt to add creepiness to late-night browsing. The posts gathered a handful of upvotes, some sarcastic comments, and then faded into obscurity. But then, someone replied. It was on his post titled, "If your name is whispered from your speakers, unplug everything immediately." The comment came from a now-deleted account. Just a single word, too late. When users clicked to view the profile, it was gone. Erased, as if it had never existed. Some brushed it off as a troll deleting their account. But then, 2 nights later, another thread appeared. This one was different. She's outside your door right now. No explanation. No context. Just a timestamp, posted at 3:17 a.m. The comment section exploded. People jokingly checked their doors, uploaded blurry photos of their hallways, and laughed at the idea of some faceless woman lingering outside, until a user from Ohio uploaded a shaky, grainy phone video. The caption read, "This isn't funny anymore." The video showed the inside of a small apartment, lights off, curtains drawn. The camera moved slowly toward the front door, where a faint shadow shifted beneath the thin line of light spilling from the hallway outside. And then, 3 soft knocks. The comments turned into chaos. Half the viewers screamed troll. The other half begged the uploader not to open the door. But as people refreshed the thread, something strange happened. The username of the uploader began to change. Not disappear, not delete. Change, letter by letter, as if someone, or something, was rewriting it in real time. Until it matched perfectly with the original poster, No Sleep Watcher, and then, silence. The video froze. The account vanished. Redditors assumed it was some elaborate ARG, a viral game designed to scare people. But deep down, a handful of users felt something colder slithering beneath the surface. Something that didn't want to entertain, but to lure. Because over the next week, more threads appeared. And with each new warning, another commenter would vanish. Their usernames corrupted, absorbed, erased from existence. Patterns emerged. The posts grew darker, more specific. If the reflection blinks before you do, leave the house immediately. Never trust a phone call that uses your dead relative's voice. If you wake up at 3:17, don't move, don't breathe, just listen. And always, always, at least one person would reply. And always, by the next morning, their account would be gone. But this isn't just a story about creepy internet legends. This is about what happened to one particular user. Someone who stumbled across these threads at the wrong time. Someone who should never have replied. Her Reddit handle was Ashlyn92. She wasn't looking for horror. She wasn't into ghost stories or creepy ARGs. She was just another night owl, scrolling absent-mindedly through subreddits in the small hours of the morning, the glow of her laptop screen keeping her company. It was past 2 a.m. when she found the post. The title was simple, "Don't look behind you when you feel the draft." She felt it before she even finished reading the sentence. That cold whisper of air brushing the back of her neck. At first, she laughed. Coincidence. Just one of those strange alignments that happen when you're sleep-deprived and alone in the dark. She scrolled through the comments, most of them mocking the post. But her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Finally, she typed 3 words. A joke, a dismissal. Too late, lol. She hit enter, and that was the moment everything changed. The comments below hers began to glitch. Not instantly, slowly, as if each word was being rewritten by invisible hands. Her screen flickered, the lights dimmed, and then, she heard it. A sound she would never forget. The faint, deliberate creak of a floorboard. Directly behind her. She froze, her chest tight, her pulse hammering in her ears. The draft brushed past her again, colder this time. And though every nerve in her body screamed not to do it, she turned. For just a moment, she saw her own reflection in the dark window across the room. And it blinked. Not with her, before her. The laptop screen refreshed by itself, and the username beside the original post began to change, letter by letter, until it read, Ashlyn92. Ashlyn sat frozen in her chair, her body tense, her fingers hovering just above the keyboard. Her reflection, if that was even what it was, stared back from the dark window. Its lips curved ever so slightly, as if mocking her. And then, with a sickening smoothness, it smiled. Her breath hitched. Her real face hadn't moved. The reflection was smiling on its own. The glow of her laptop bathed the room in a cold, artificial light, but it wasn't enough to hide the subtle shift in the glass. The reflection leaned forward, closer, as though pressing its face against an invisible barrier. Its eyes, her eyes, were dark, hollow, too deep to belong to anything living. And then the power cut. The room plunged into suffocating darkness. Only the faint hum of her laptop remained, the screen flickering back to life, displaying the cursed post once again. This time, her username wasn't in the comments. It was the poster. The thread now read, posted by you/Ashlyn92. Don't look behind you when you feel the draft. Her stomach lurched. She slammed the laptop shut and stumbled backward, clutching at the desk for balance. Her apartment, usually a safe and familiar space, felt suddenly alien. The shadows seemed thicker, heavier, stretching along the walls like black veins. Her phone buzzed. Heart hammering, she grabbed it. A new notification. Read it. But when she opened it, it wasn't a message. It was a mention. Someone had tagged her username in another thread. She scrolled quickly, her trembling fingers nearly dropping the phone. The thread title read, She's standing in the corner right now. Her eyes darted upward. The far corner of her room was swallowed in darkness. At first, there was nothing. And then, her vision adjusted. The outline of a figure, tall, wrong, its limbs slightly too long, stood perfectly still, blending into the black. Ashlyn's throat went dry. Her body screamed to move, to run, to do something. But then the figure tilted its head and whispered her name. Not aloud, not in the room, through the phone's speaker. Ashlyn. Her scream caught in her chest. She hurled the phone across the room, the plastic casing cracking against the wall. The sound echoed, but when it faded, she realized something horrifying. The whisper hadn't stopped. It was coming from behind her. She bolted, racing down the hallway. She didn't dare look back. The shadows seemed to chase her, stretching along the walls like grasping fingers. She flung open the bathroom door, slammed it shut, and locked it. For a moment, only silence. Her ragged breathing filled the space, bouncing off the tile. Then, 3 soft knocks. Not at the door. At the bathroom mirror. Her stomach dropped. She turned slowly, her eyes landing on the reflection. But the mirror no longer showed her face. Instead, it displayed her bedroom, the figure still standing in the corner, motionless. And worse, the figure was no longer alone. In the reflection, she saw herself, still sitting at the desk, staring at the laptop. Her real body trembled, pressed against the cold tile floor, watching as the other Ashlyn in the mirror began to move. The doppelganger leaned forward, typing on the keyboard with quick, deliberate strokes. Ashlyn's breath fogged against the glass as she whispered, No, no, that's not me. That's not me. And then, as if hearing her, the reflection turned its head. Its face was hers, but its eyes were wrong, 2 endless pits of static, buzzing faintly like a broken television. It smiled again. And typed one last sentence into the glowing screen. Goodbye. The mirror went black. Ashlyn screamed. From you/no sleepwatcher. It read, Your account is mine now. And then, the bathroom light flickered violently. When it steadied, Ashlyn was gone. The only sound left in the apartment was the faint buzz of the phone, lying cracked and splintered on the floor, showing her account profile. The profile picture, a plain gray Reddit icon, began to change. Pixel by pixel, it reshaped itself into a blurry photo. Ashlyn's face, smiling. The next morning, her username posted again. A new thread. If you hear knocking in the mirror, don't answer. Users in the comments laughed nervously, half convinced it was just another creepypasta ARG. But one user, just one, replied with 2 words, "Too late." And that account? It vanished within minutes. Ashlyn was no longer just a name on a missing persons report. She was something else now. Another user absorbed into the endless threads. Another whisper in the dark. And for those who stumble across her posts, those who dare to reply, she's waiting. By now, the story of No Sleep Watcher had shifted from a strange internet curiosity into something darker, something whispered about in Discord servers and private messages. Some said it was an elaborate ARG, others believed it was malware, something that could hijack accounts, cameras, even speakers. But a growing number of users were starting to believe something else entirely. That it wasn't a person at all. That it was something using the platform as a doorway. The evidence only grew stronger when threads began to appear with audio files attached. At first, they seemed harmless, poorly recorded clips of static, faint white noise that most dismissed as cheap scares. But the longer you listened, the more the static shifted, stretched, and warped into something resembling a voice. It whispered. Not loudly, not clearly. But enough. And each time the voice spoke, it spoke the listener's name. One of those listeners was Ethan, a 24-year-old college student from Michigan. Ethan wasn't easily scared. He was the kind of person who laughed at horror movies, debunked ghost stories, and prided himself on being the skeptic in his friend group. So when he saw people panicking over haunted audio files, he jumped at the chance to prove everyone wrong. He clicked on the thread. The title read, "Put your headphones on. Listen carefully." Ethan smirked, slid his headset over his ears, and pressed play. At first, it was nothing, just the hiss of static, like an old TV left on a dead channel. He leaned back in his chair, unimpressed. But then, the noise shifted. It grew rhythmic, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. And beneath it, something stirred. A whisper, faint at first, then louder. And louder, until the voice was right there in his ears, curling like smoke around his thoughts. It said his name. Ethan. He froze, his grin faltering. It had to be a trick, some program that pulled the listener's username from their Reddit profile and spliced it into the audio. But then the voice spoke again. Not from the headphones, from the corner of his darkened room. Ethan. He yanked the headset off, his pulse quickening. The room was silent, save for the low hum of his PC tower. His eyes darted across the walls, the shadows, the closed closet door. Nothing. He laughed nervously, shaking his head. Nice one. Really clever editing, he muttered, convincing himself. But then his speakers crackled, though they weren't even plugged in. The voice bled through, distorted but unmistakable. Don't turn around. Ethan's breath hitched. His heart hammered against his ribs, but curiosity gnawed at him. Slowly, shakily, he began to turn in his chair. The room was empty. No one stood behind him. But the reflection in his darkened computer monitor told a different story. A figure was there, tall, lurking, its face obscured by a mask of writhing static. The monitor flickered, and the reflection was gone. But the whisper wasn't. Closer, the words slithered from the monitor itself, not the speakers this time, but the screen. The pixels trembled, lines of distorted code flickering across the desktop. His mouse moved on its own, dragging the cursor toward a new folder that had appeared out of nowhere. The folder's name, Listen. Ethan's hands shook as he tried to shut the PC down, but the system didn't respond. The cursor double-clicked the folder on its own. Inside were hundreds of audio files, all named after different usernames. And at the very bottom, one last file. Ethan.mp3. He slammed his fist against the power button, but the computer didn't turn off. Instead, the file opened automatically. The same static hiss filled the room, but this time it didn't whisper his name. It whispered his location. His apartment number, his street, his city, and then, clearer than ever, open the door. A knock echoed from the hallway. Ethan's blood ran cold. Slow, deliberate. 3 knocks. He backed away, his phone shaking in his hand as he dialed 911. But before the operator could answer, the phone cut to static. The same voice filled the line, louder now, as though speaking directly into his ear. You listened, now you're mine. The line went dead, and so did the lights. The apartment plunged into darkness, the glow of his monitor the only illumination. For a moment, Ethan thought he saw the figure again in the reflection, closer this time. Its hand stretched outward, pressing against the inside of the screen, distorting the pixels like soft glass. The whisper came one last time. Let me out. The monitor shattered, and Ethan was never seen again. The next morning, another thread appeared. The title read, "Don't listen to the voices through the screen." The poster's username was different this time. U/Ethan24, and below it, a single chilling comment. Why now? The warnings had taken shape, like chapters in a cursed book being written in real time. Each thread was connected, each post claimed another user, and always, after the inevitable disappearance, a new warning surfaced, subtle, yet hauntingly precise. For those who still followed No Sleep Watcher, the phenomenon was becoming impossible to ignore. One night, at exactly 3:17 a.m., a thread appeared. The title was short, cold, never read the unsent message. The post itself contained nothing more than a single sentence: "It will find its way to you." At first, users joked about it, claiming it was a bluff. Some even staged screenshots of fake, unsent messages to get a laugh. But then, stories began trickling into the comments. Small, unnerving anecdotes about Reddit DMs arriving in people's inboxes, and vanishing before they could read them. One user described hearing the notification sound in the middle of the night, only to find an empty inbox seconds later. Another claimed their phone buzzed with the message preview visible on the lock screen, but when they opened the app, the message was gone. Each preview contained the same two words, "Behind you." It was here that Mara, a 29-year-old nurse from New Jersey, entered the story. Mara had been following the No Sleep Watcher threads for weeks, not out of belief, but out of morbid fascination. Working night shifts left her awake during the loneliest hours, and she often browsed Reddit during her breaks to distract herself from the silence of the hospital corridors. But that night, she wasn't at work. She was home, lying in bed with her phone dimly glowing in her hand. When the notification appeared, Reddit, new message from you/No Sleep Watcher, her breath caught. She sat up, staring at the glowing screen, heart pounding. Slowly, she swiped to unlock, but when the inbox loaded, it was empty. Confused, she backed out, refreshed, still nothing. She almost laughed it off, until her phone buzzed again. This time, the preview flashed for only a split second, long enough for her to see it. "Don't turn around." Her chest tightened. The room felt suddenly colder, but curiosity, stupid, gnawing curiosity, compelled her to glance over her shoulder. The bedroom was dark, lit only by the faint glow of the phone. Shadows stretched across the walls, the open closet gaping like a black wound. Nothing moved. Mara turned back to the phone, telling herself it was just paranoia. But then, the notification buzzed again. The preview read, "We see you." The plural chilled her. Her fingers trembled as she tapped frantically into the settings, trying to block the user. But the app froze. The button wouldn't respond. The phone locked itself, then unlocked, cycling on its own. And when it did, a draft message sat open in her inbox. She hadn't typed it. The words glared back at her, unfinished. "Let me in," her pulse thundered. She deleted the text, closed the app, and threw the phone onto the nightstand. She buried her face in her hands, whispering, "It's just a glitch, just a glitch." But then the phone buzzed again. She didn't want to look, she didn't want to touch it, but the sound persisted, vibrating against the wood. Slowly, with shaking hands, she picked it up. The draft had rewritten itself. "You already let me in." The closet door creaked. Her head snapped toward it. In the darkness, she saw the faintest outline. Tall, motionless, watching. Her fingers slipped across the screen as she tried to turn on the flashlight. The glow illuminated the closet for only a heartbeat, just long enough to catch two pinpricks of light staring back at her eyes. The light flickered and died. Mara's scream never left her throat. Her phone slipped from her hand and clattered to the floor, screen cracking. When the neighbors found her apartment the next morning, the bed was empty. Her phone lay on the carpet, still glowing faintly. The inbox showed one final draft message. It was saved at exactly 3:17 a.m. Goodbye. Later that day, another thread surfaced. "If you receive the unsent message, don't read it. The username at the top wasn't No Sleep Watcher. It was hers, u/Mara92, and beneath it, in the comments, another reply appeared. Too late. The account vanished within minutes. The legend of No Sleep Watcher grew that week, and with every new disappearance, the warnings became less like stories and more like traps, bait for the curious, written in bloodless digital ink. And somewhere, hidden between the posts, a truth was beginning to take shape. Whatever it wasn't writing these messages alone anymore. It had helped. The internet thrives on curiosity, on clicking when you know you shouldn't, on opening doors you were warned to leave closed. And so when the next No Sleep Watcher post appeared, it wasn't a warning. It was an invitation. The thread's title was simple, cold, deliberate. Join us tonight at 3:17 a.m. Beneath it, a single link, a live stream. The comments erupted instantly. Some called it an ARG, others swore it was a trap. A few even speculated it was tied to the disappearances that had begun circulating in obscure news articles. Missing woman in New Jersey, college student vanishes in Michigan, unexplained apartment break-in. But that didn't stop people from clicking. The stream went live an hour later. Thousands tuned in. The feed was dark at first, a grainy image of an empty room lit only by a faint desk lamp. At the center of the shot sat an old computer, its monitor humming with static. For nearly 10 minutes, nothing happened. And then, movement. A figure entered the frame. It was impossible to see clearly. The camera blurred, glitching whenever the figure drew close, as though the technology itself recoiled from showing it. But viewers swore they could see fragments, long limbs, a crooked posture, a face that didn't quite align with human symmetry. The figure sat at the desk, hands moving across the keyboard. And then, the live stream chat lit up, because whatever it typed, appeared instantly in the chat box of every single viewer. Welcome. Some laughed. Others spammed jokes, emotes, disbelief. But buried between the flood of sarcastic remarks, one user typed a single line, "Who are you?" The figure paused, the camera glitched, and then, the reply appeared, "I am you." The chat slowed, the tone shifted. What had started as ironic humor turned into silence, broken only by the occasional nervous LOL. The figure leaned closer to the screen. Its static-ridden face nearly pressed against the camera, its mouth moving, but no sound came. Until viewers began to notice something horrifying. Their own microphones were activating. One by one, without permission, the little green lights flickered on. And through the speakers, through the cacophony of hundreds of rooms across the world, whispers began to bleed, not from the stream, from their own homes. People typed frantically in chat, "WTF, it just said my name. There's something in my hallway. My reflection just moved." The feed glitched violently, the image breaking into jagged pixels. For a moment, the figure vanished entirely, replaced by a kaleidoscope of distorted images. Faces. Viewers swore they saw their own faces, blurred, cracked, screaming, like fragments stolen from their webcams. And then, the feed steadied again. The figure typed one last sentence, "Now you're invited," and the stream ended. Among the thousands who tuned in, most brushed it off as a clever viral stunt, a creepy performance art piece. But for a few, the experience didn't end when the stream cut. One of them was Liam, a 31-year-old software engineer from Chicago. Liam wasn't superstitious. He lived by logic, code, and reason. But he had been on that stream, and what unsettled him wasn't the glitching figure. It was the whisper, because he'd heard it inside his apartment. Hours later, as he sat coding in the dim glow of his dual monitors, the notification chimed. Reddit, new message from you/No Sleep Watcher. He hesitated. His finger hovered over the mouse. But against his better judgment, he clicked. The message contained no text, just a link. The same live stream link. But this time, when he opened it, the camera feed wasn't of some strange, anonymous room. It was of his apartment. The view was from behind him. He could see his own back, hunched at the desk, illuminated by the monitors. His body stiffened. He spun in his chair, nothing. The room was empty. But when he turned back, the feed changed. Now it showed him staring into the camera, live. Except the face on the screen wasn't quite his. Its smile was wider, its eyes too dark. His own reflection whispered through his headset, clear, deliberate. "You accepted the invitation." The screen flickered. The lights cut. Neighbors reported hearing screams that night. By morning, Liam's apartment was empty. His computer left running, monitor humming with static. On his Reddit account, one final thread appeared. Never accept the invitation you can't decline. The post gathered thousands of upvotes in hours, but buried in the comment section, there was only one reply before the account disappeared. Too late. There is a strange comfort in profile pictures. Tiny, static images we attach to ourselves online. They are shields, avatars we hide behind, faces we choose to show instead of our real ones. But what happens when the shield cracks? When the picture changes, on its own? That was the question raised by the next No Sleep Watcher thread. The title read, "Never click the room behind the profile picture." Unlike the other warnings, this post included an image. A simple, blurry square that looked like a normal Reddit icon at first glance. But zooming in revealed something strange. It wasn't just a color or a logo. It was a room. A dark, windowless room with walls that seemed damp, stained. A desk sat in the center with an old computer, its monitor glowing faintly. And though the image was low quality, users swore they could see someone sitting at the desk, slumped, still. The comments exploded. People debated whether it was a hoax, a photoshopped prank. Some tried to brighten the image, only to find the file corrupted. Others swore they saw the figure move between refreshes, its head slowly turning. But then, accounts began to change. Their profile pictures, random, harmless icons, were replaced overnight with the room. And with each replacement, the angle shifted slightly, as if the viewer was being drawn closer and closer inside. One of those unlucky users was Nina, a 26-year-old grad student from Seattle. Nina didn't believe in curses. She considered herself too rational for that. But when her profile picture changed, she couldn't shake the unease. The first time she noticed it, she thought it was a glitch. She tried re-uploading her cat's photo, but the platform refused. Every time she saved, the picture reverted back. The room. Always the room. That night, curiosity got the better of her. She zoomed in on the image and froze. Because this time, the figure at the desk wasn't slumped anymore. It was upright, and its head was turned toward her. She slammed the laptop shut, heart racing. "It's a troll," she whispered to herself. "It's just a troll." But her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A Reddit notification. She unlocked it. A private message from her own account. The message contained only a single image. The same room. But the perspective had shifted again. Closer now. So close she could make out the computer screen on the desk. And on that glowing monitor was her face. Wide-eyed, terrified, staring directly into the lens of her phone camera at that very moment. She dropped the device, her breath sharp and shallow. The walls of her bedroom seemed to pulse, the air heavy with static. The laptop across the room creaked open on its own. Its screen glowed. Her Reddit profile page was open. The picture changed again. This time, there was no desk, no glowing monitor. Just the room. Empty. The message pinged again. "We made space for you." Her closet door slid open. Nina screamed, scrambling toward the door, fumbling with the lock. But as her trembling fingers worked, her phone buzzed once more on the floor. She didn't want to look, but she did. One final message. A live photo. The same room. But now, she was in it, standing in the corner, her eyes wide, mouth stretched in a scream frozen forever. When her roommate returned the next morning, Nina's bedroom was empty. The laptop sat on the desk, still glowing. Her Reddit profile remained active, but the picture was different again. The room was no longer empty. She was still there, trapped, watching. Later that evening, another thread appeared. "If your profile picture changes, don't click." The username above it wasn't No Sleep Watcher. It was hers. U/Nino_Cs, and below it, as always, the chilling reply appeared within minutes. Too late. By this point, the warnings had shifted into something undeniable. It wasn't just strange usernames and ghostly posts anymore. It was patterns. Disappearances. And accounts that should have been deleted, still leaving faint traces behind. That was the theme of the next thread. The title read, "Deleted doesn't mean gone." The post itself was blank, nothing but a hollow void where text should be. But users who scrolled through the comments noticed something strange. Replies from accounts that didn't exist. Deleted users. Their names appeared as the familiar deleted, the gray placeholder every Redditor had seen 1,000 times before. But these were different, because the replies weren't gibberish or fragments. They were sentences. One by one, they appeared beneath the thread, a growing chain of whispers from the void. We're still here. It doesn't end with deletion. They keep us watching. And then, at the very bottom, a single line that made the blood of every reader run cold. Look behind you. One of the users who stumbled across this thread was Daniel, a 34-year-old high school teacher from Arizona. Daniel had never taken the no-sleep watcher phenomenon seriously. He thought it was a collaborative story, some elaborate internet game. But the deleted comments caught his eye. Out of habit, he opened the developer console on his browser, digging into the page code. That's when he saw it. The comments weren't random. They weren't fake placeholders. They were accounts, but their IDs didn't match any existing users. Instead, they matched missing persons reports. His hands went cold as he copied the strings of numbers, cross-referencing them online. And there they were. Ashlyn, Ethan, Mara, Nina. Each account tied to someone who had vanished in the real world. Daniel's stomach churned. He shut the laptop, whispering to himself, "It's just a coincidence, just a hoax." But when he opened his phone, a Reddit notification was already waiting. A private message from Deleted. It contained only 3 words. "We see you." Daniel froze, staring at the message. He tried to screenshot it, but the phone glitched. The image came out black. Another notification appeared. Another message. "Stop trying." His breathing quickened. He turned off the phone and set it aside, but the screen lit up on its own. Now there was a photo. His living room. Taken seconds ago. Daniel stumbled out of his chair, spinning in circles, searching the corners of the room. Nothing. No windows open. No sign of a break-in. Another photo arrived, this time, from the hallway. Closer. The captions began appearing with each new picture. Deleted doesn't mean gone. We watch through every screen. You can't delete us. Daniel dropped the phone and backed into the kitchen. His chest felt like it was caving in, panic clawing at his ribs. He reached for the landline phone, desperate to call someone, anyone. But when he lifted the receiver, static. The same hiss he'd read about in other victims' accounts. And then, beneath it, the voices, whispering. Not one. Not two. Dozens, all speaking at once, overlapping, an endless chorus of names. His name. Daniel. The whispers rose, overlapping into a maddening hum, a hive of voices pressing into his skull. He slammed the receiver down and staggered backward. The TV in the living room turned on by itself. The screen glowed with dozens of profile pictures. Not avatars. Faces. Real faces. Every missing user. Their eyes staring directly into the camera, unblinking. Their mouths moved in perfect unison, though no sound came from the speakers. Then, the picture on the screen changed. It was him. A live feed from inside his house, though no cameras were there. And slowly, his reflection on the screen began to smile. The TV shut off, and Daniel was gone. The next morning, another thread surfaced. The title, Deleted doesn't mean gone. The username, u/DanielTeacher34, and beneath it, as always, the reply appeared almost immediately. Too late. Redditors began to whisper about it across other subs, hushed threads buried in conspiracy forums. What was happening wasn't a story anymore. It was a system. A ritual. A new pattern was clear. Those who were erased didn't vanish completely. They remained in the code, in the comments, in the silence between keystrokes. Deleted, but still watching. By now, Reddit itself had become infected. That's what people began to say in hushed tones on forums, Discord servers, and even scattered Twitter threads. It wasn't just a handful of strange posts anymore. It was everywhere. Notifications began flooding users' phones and computers at random. Not normal ones, not replies, not messages, not updates. These were different. They came at night, and always at 3:17 a.m. The stories spread like wildfire. People claimed their phones would vibrate endlessly, a flood of unread alerts piling in one after another. Hundreds, thousands. And yet, when they checked, their inbox was empty. The endless chime of phantom pings became known online as the 317 glitch. But for some, it wasn't a glitch at all. It was the beginning of the end. One of those people was Sophia, a 22-year-old journalism major from Toronto. Sophia had been collecting stories on the no-sleep watcher phenomenon for her university project. At first, she thought it was nothing more than digital folklore, an urban legend born of collective fear and the internet's ability to spread it. But the night she decided to write her final report, the notifications began. It started with a single buzz. Her phone lit up on the desk. Reddit, new message. She ignored it. She was too busy typing, too focused on documenting her research. Then another buzz. And another. Soon, her phone was vibrating non-stop, the sound rattling across the wood like a trapped insect. She snatched it up, heart pounding. The screen was glowing with endless lines of text. New message from you/no sleep watcher. New mention in a thread. Reply to your comment. Hundreds of them, flooding in faster than she could read. Sophia tried to open the inbox, but the app froze. The notifications kept climbing. 500, 1,000, 3,000. The phone grew hot in her hand, the battery draining unnaturally fast. She threw it aside, the screen still pulsing with alerts. Her laptop chimed. She looked up, eyes wide. The same thing was happening on the computer. The corner of her screen filled with non-stop Reddit pings, overlapping each other until the audio glitched into a high-pitched drone. She yanked the Ethernet cable, turned off the Wi-Fi. But the notifications didn't stop. They were still coming. The screen froze for a moment, then flickered violently. And then, she saw it. Her own face. Hundreds of her own face, embedded in the flood of notifications. Each profile picture a warped reflection of her, staring, screaming, smiling too wide. The noise in the room grew unbearable. The pings had shifted into whispers now, each alert carrying her name. Sophia, Sophia, Sophia. Her breathing turned ragged. She slammed the laptop shut, but the sound kept going. She unplugged the phone, pulled the battery, threw it across the room, yet still, the noise continued. It was in the walls, in the air. An endless chorus of notifications, like a swarm of insects crawling beneath her skin. And then, silence. The sudden quiet was worse than the noise. The phone lit up one final time, across the room. One notification. A private message from her own account. She crawled toward it slowly, her stomach tight, her hands trembling. The preview read, "Open the door." Her body stiffened. She turned her head toward the apartment's front door. 3 knocks echoed in the silence. Slow, deliberate. The phone buzzed again. Open it. Her throat closed. Every instinct screamed to stay still, to stay silent, but the handle turned on its own. The door creaked open. Sophia's scream never left her lips. The next morning, her roommate found the apartment in perfect order, except for the electronics. The laptop was melted, warped by heat. The phone, shattered. The Wi-Fi router, split down the middle. And yet, on her Reddit account, a new thread appeared. The notifications never end. The username, you/Sophia writes, and, buried in the comments, the familiar reply, too late. That night, hundreds of users reported receiving new notifications. Every one of them came at exactly 3:17 a.m. And all of them carried the same message. We are here. By now, the line between story and reality had thinned to nothing. What began as strange usernames, eerie posts, and vanishing accounts had transformed into something physical, something breathing, watching, moving beyond the confines of the screen. It started small. Users reporting shadows in their rooms after reading the threads. Figures caught in the reflection of a darkened monitor. But soon, the accounts stopped being whispers of fear and became testimonies, pleas for help. And then came the videos. The first surfaced on a conspiracy subreddit under the title, "Proof No Sleep Watcher Isn't Human." It was a shaky clip, filmed on a cracked phone. The poster's voice trembled as he whispered, "Something's in my room. It's in the feed. I can hear it breathing." The camera turned toward his laptop, where the Reddit homepage glowed faintly. Every post was the same. Dozens of threads, all under different usernames, but every single title read, "We're almost through." Then the feed began to change. The text warped, shifting in real time, letters bending into unfamiliar shapes. The glow from the screen deepened, no longer white but a sickly blue. And then, something pressed against the glass. A face, not a human one. Not entirely. The outline was wrong, cheeks too sunken, mouth stretched too wide. The eyes, dark voids, locked on the camera. And as the video continued, the screen bulged, like it was straining to let something through. The man's breath hitched. His whisper grew frantic. It's not supposed to." The video cut out. No one ever heard from him again. But it didn't stop there. One by one, similar clips emerged. People filming their screens as hands clawed against the glass, their movements jittering like corrupted files. Comment sections across Reddit filled with reports of monitors cracking, smartphones shattering, shadows leaking from the corners of tablets. And every single account tied to these posts vanished within hours. Deleted. But the footage remained. One survivor's testimony still circulates, though no one knows if it's authentic. A Redditor named Ellie described her experience in a late-night voice memo posted to a friend's private Discord. "I thought it was just stories. You know? Creepypasta, roleplay, whatever. But when the comments started using my name, my real name, I knew something was wrong." Her voice cracked, shaky. "I unplugged everything. My laptop, my phone, even my smart TV. I thought if I cut the connection, I'd be safe." A pause. Breathing. But the screen still turned on, even without power, and it showed me, sitting there, terrified. Except, I was smiling. And it was moving closer. She choked back a sob. "I don't think these are stories anymore. I think, whatever's inside, whatever's been waiting, it's coming through us. Through our attention, through the words we keep reading. It's like we summoned it without even knowing." The audio ends abruptly with a shriek, followed by static. Ellie's account is now inactive. The phenomena escalated quickly after that. Entire threads began to sync across the platform, thousands of accounts posting the exact same thing at the exact same time. The door is open. News outlets dismissed it as a hack, but users knew better. Because the ones who saw the phrase on their screens reported the same sensation, the air growing heavy, the temperature plummeting, and the feeling of being watched from the shadows of their own homes. The boundary had shattered. Fiction was no longer fiction. The watchers were flesh now, and they were stepping through. The final proof came in the form of a live stream. A small-time streamer named Brandon went live at 2 a.m., his voice trembling as he told his viewers, "If anything happens to me, just know it's real. They're real." The chat begged him to log off, to leave, to run. But he didn't. Behind him, the glow of his computer screen pulsed brighter and brighter until it illuminated the entire room. And then, a hand slid out of the monitor. Gray, skeletal fingers curling against the desk. The viewers spammed the chat in panic as Brandon froze, his face pale with terror. More of the figure emerged, shoulders, torso, head, its mouth gaping, jaw unhinging far wider than any humans should. Brandon screamed. The stream ended. The VOD never saved. But for the hundreds who watched live, the image was burned into their minds. The watchers weren't just behind the screen anymore. They were here. It began as whispers, then threads, then stories. But now, it had become a truth no one could deny. Reddit was no longer just a platform. It was a gateway, and the watchers had crossed. The final days were documented by a handful of desperate users. Their accounts remain archived in fragments, scattered across forgotten forums and private servers. But together, they tell the story of how it all ended. One user, known only as U/last-witness, described what he called the final login. "I woke up at 3:17. I don't even remember setting an alarm. My phone was glowing on the nightstand, and the app was already open. I don't know how, it was just on. And at the top of the feed was a thread, not one I had subscribed to. Not one I had ever seen. It was titled, 'This is your last chance.' The post had no text, just a button that said, 'Log in.' But I was already logged in. Or, I thought I was." His writing grew frantic after that, words blurring into incoherence, as if his thoughts were unraveling even as he typed. I couldn't look away. My fingers moved on their own. I clicked, and then I wasn't in my room anymore. Other testimonies echoed the same pattern. People logging in, or being forced to log in, only to find themselves somewhere else. A place described as a reflection of reality, but stripped bare, dark, infinite. A digital purgatory. Where the watchers waited. A survivor named Claire wrote her final words in a text file found on her desktop after her disappearance. "It's endless. Like a dark Reddit feed that never ends, post after post after post, all of them screaming my name. My phone doesn't work here. My laptop doesn't work here. But I can hear them. The watchers, crawling closer. I think this is what they wanted all along. Not to be read, not to be remembered, but to have us here with them. Her file ended mid-sentence, and then came the collapse. Entire subreddits went dark overnight. Millions of accounts deactivated without warning. Some say it was mass hysteria. Others say it was something else, that those users hadn't vanished, but had been taken. By the time moderators began shutting down threads, it was too late. The infection had spread. Other platforms soon reported the same phenomenon. Discord, Twitter, even email inboxes. Everywhere people communicated, the watchers found their way through. Everywhere people looked, the phrase repeated, "You are logged in." The last known message tied to the phenomenon appeared in a Reddit thread that was instantly locked, then deleted. But hundreds screenshot it before it vanished. The post read, "Thank you for reading. We couldn't have crossed without you." And beneath it, a single sign-off. You/no sleep watcher. No one knows how many were taken. No one knows where they are now. Some say the watchers walk among us, hidden behind familiar faces, blending into everyday life. Others believe those trapped in the final login are still there, scrolling an endless feed, their screams echoing into a void that no living soul can hear. But one thing remains certain. If you ever wake at 3:17 a.m., if you ever see a notification you don't remember clicking, if you ever find yourself staring at a thread you never subscribed to, don't log in. Don't even look, because the watchers are still here, and they are waiting. We couldn't have crossed without you. And beneath it, a single sign-off. You/no sleep watcher. No one knows how many were taken. No one knows where they are now. Some say the watchers walk among us, hidden behind familiar faces, blending into everyday life. Others believe those trapped in the final login are still there, scrolling an endless feed, their screams echoing into a void that no living soul can hear. But one thing remains certain. If you ever wake at 3:17 a.m., if you ever see a notification you don't remember clicking, if you ever find yourself staring at a thread you never subscribed to, don't log in. Don't even look, because the watchers are still here, and they are waiting.